What happens when all of the dreams that you had been planning for, all of your passions and your hopes and your convictions that you have been strategizing for, don't turn out the way that you wanted? You took the big leap, you finally made that big decision, and now you're in the thick of it, and nothing is going the way that you wanted. Hello, and welcome to the Hello You Show, where big dreams meet real action. Through transformative stories, a bit of neuroscience, and real conversations, this show is here to help you explore creating your next level life with authenticity and passion. I am Jessica Rice, a design techie and former engineering leader turned vision evolution coach on a mission to help other women rise up and lead a life of purpose. So get cozy and say hello again to the real you. Hello, welcome back to the Hello You Show. My name is Jessica Rice, and I am your host. Well, what do we do when we finally make that big leap and we decide that we're going to finally pursue our dreams? We've been planning around it. We've been thinking about it. We've been anticipating the day when we can finally step into our power and our purpose and our passion. And when we finally do, nothing goes the way that we were hoping. Have you ever had that happen to you? I know when I was planning for my exit, my strategy, my move from corporate, I had high hopes, high anticipations of what that was actually going to look like. In fact, I had been dreaming about it for years, several years, in fact, and really strategically planning and waiting for that moment where I would finally hear that yes in my life, God's hand coming down and calling upon me to come forth and do the thing that I was called and I'm supposed to be doing. And when I finally made that move and I finally put my notice in, it was the most terrifying moment in my life in terms of really stepping out in courage and in faith. And when I did, I was really excited, but I also found that nothing was going the way that I had thought it would. And then I was starting to feel like a failure. What does this mean for me? What is this going to look like for me? Have I just cast aside everything in my life only to find myself deeper and deeper and deeper into a hole that I wasn't sure how to get out of? And so today I want to talk to you about what is it that we do when we're facing this level of uncertainty and we don't have any more cards to play and we've put all of our eggs into this one basket. Because when you talk to lots of entrepreneurs, you start to find that many of them who were successful, they made a choice and they didn't give themselves an option to back out. And I know that was very true for me. Now, could I have gone and looked for other roles in the meantime? I probably could have. But there was no way that I wanted to go back into software engineering, into corporate when I had just finally made my exit. This is what I had been dreaming about for years upon years, to finally lead my life on my terms. Now, if you've ever been feeling like this and you felt the hope and you felt the pain and you felt the fear, then I want to encourage you. Number one, when we go through trial and error, sometimes we can start to think that maybe we're not cut out for this, or maybe we made a wrong decision, or maybe we missed something along the way. And all of our fears, this is exactly what was telling us, it was holding us back all those many years. And I know we talk often about how do we make that big leap, but what do we do when it's not going our way and things aren't panning out and it's taking longer than we expected? This is why we have to go back to our purpose. This is why we have to go back to our convictions, because only then will we have the clarity and the insight and the fortitude to keep pushing forward. If we lack the conviction, if we lack the purpose, if we lack the passion in our lives, and we're lacking that connection with what it is that we've been called to do, then we will falter and we will backpedal and we will go back and do the very thing that we walked away from. This is incredibly important, especially for entrepreneurs who are facing those times of uncertainty, as we all do in an entrepreneurial journey, because it never is as easy as we think it's going to be. There's always going to be something more that we have to learn. There will be new tests, new trials that we have to undergo, and we have to learn more about ourselves, about what we're made of, and what we're truly capable of. When I stepped into this journey for myself, I already had some things under my belt. And in some ways, that was to my own detriment, because I thought, well, I've got this handle. I've got a good handle on design. I've got a good handle on how to build a website. I've got a good handle on marketing. But none of these things were applicable directly to my business, because I was used to marketing for a large company. I was used to marketing for a company that had multiple brands and stores that we were selling to large customer bases and had a very different audience. My audience is completely different than who I was previously marketing to. I didn't go from a one-to-one in terms of the industry and the company that I was building. And the same thing for design. And the same thing for the tech. The tech that I used was very different. I had to relearn all tools, relearn new types of ways to connect APIs together so that they were speaking the same language. I had to go through trial and error on different types of platforms so that I could run and streamline my business, not only to be more efficient, but to be more cost effective, which was something I never had to do before. And I had to learn the hard way in many cases. And sometimes, without my even knowing it, there was a bit of arrogance that I experienced on the inside. And so even though I thought that I was incredibly humble and there was a lot that I was still learning, there's always more that we have to learn. And while it's not a terrible thing to recognize the gifts and the strengths that we have, those are the things that we want to hold on to. We still have lots to learn in those areas. And so in many cases, my understanding of my industry previously held me back in certain cases with my own business, because I felt that I already knew how to do certain things. And boy, was I wrong. Now, fast forward to today, where I've now finally found some systems that actually work for me. I've figured out how to make it so that it's efficient, it's streamlined, and it's cost effective. Not only that, I've had to figure out the marketing strategies. I've had to figure out how to cold call and connect with people, things I would never have done before because I was way too terrified. I was way too terrified to reach out to somebody I didn't even know to try to create a sale, let alone just get to know them, understand their needs, and what it is that they were needing in their lives that potentially I could help them with. I didn't know anything about sales from that perspective. And so it was a lot to learn in terms of sales, in terms of marketing, in terms of social media, how to get out there more, the different types of tech that we were using, all of it. And yet I still wanted to push forward. I still wanted to prove myself. I still wanted to commit to this dream. There's nothing more painful than to being so close to a dream and still not reaching it. How many of you have ever felt that way before in your lives? Have you ever thought for yourself that you could almost taste it? It's like winning second place in a race that you've been training for most of your life. It's so close. And while second is great, it's still not first. And how many times in our lives do we can sit there and compare ourselves to the dream that we had in our head, that vision that we had in our mind, and the reality that we're facing and the disconnect between the two, and that we tell ourselves that we're coming in last. So as a bit of neuroscience for you, I want you to consider for a moment, what is the progress that you have made already? What is the progress? How far have you come in your journey? And I want you to think about how you can start to take note, mark down, use tally marks, whatever that looks like for you, so that you can start to see a track record for yourself, for your growth, and for your commitment to this passion, this calling, this purpose that you have been continuing to pursue. Because I guarantee that more often than not, you have probably made it so much further than you realize. But we're still always looking forward. We're still always looking for that next mark. And then we have in our mind somewhere, somehow, there is some indicator that we have made it. This is what success is supposed to look like. Now, when we look at people and we compare ourselves to other individuals who are online, who are just killing it, they're crushing it every single day, and we only get to see one little glimpse of what that journey has looked like for them. And most often, we only get to see them on the shining, beautiful, bright side of it. If you're in the trenches, my friend, it only means that you can go up from here. There is no other place from up, because if you are continuing to push yourself, if you're continuing to pursue this cause, then you are also continuing to learn and to grow and to stretch yourself, which is incredibly uncomfortable and painful and difficult. And it requires resilience and tenacity beyond what we ever imagined. And so while it does feel like this uphill climb, in it, you are growing. Now, I know for me, for a really long time, my marker of success was a specific number. Have you ever felt that way? Like, okay, if I can just replace my income, then we'll be all right. Now, if I can reach this next goal, then this is going to be what that level of success looks like for me. And I want to do it in this amount of time. Sometimes what we have envisioned in our mind, we're not fully ready for. God still has to do some work in us. He still has to refine us. He still has to put us through the fire so that we can come out the other side a diamond. How often in our lives do we ignore that piece of it, right? The part where we're having to stretch ourselves, the part where it feels, so painful. And we start to question everything that we're doing. How many of you ever look at what you're doing from this vantage point at times and just think, gosh, am I just making a fool out of myself? I know I have. I know I've looked at all of the marketing materials, everything that we're putting together. And then sometimes for a glimpse of a moment, I look at all of it and I look at my face and I can see myself on there. And I think to myself, are you just a fool? And I know I have felt that many, many times on this journey, but I also felt that while I was in my career. The difference is that success in your career sometimes has more immediate gratification because you have more people who are willing to tell you sometimes like, hey, it's okay, you're doing great, or don't feel so bad, because you're in it with other people. When you're an entrepreneur, more often than not, you spend most days in your own head. And there might be other people on your team and there might be other people in your court, but you're still having to contend with yourself. Remember what's inside. And as you continue to think about what's next for you, I want you to ask yourself, not how can I do it all differently? How can I be better? Rather, how can I calibrate? I was talking to my son this week. We went to his basketball game, and as I was watching him run up and down the court, and while he was getting in there finally and doing some better defense and some better offense, and he was finally just kind of getting a little bit more active because basketball is a contact sport, what I noticed was the way that he was running. When I was in high school, I ran track. I ran the 200 meter and I ran the 400 meter. And I also did the long jump. I could see the way that he was running. If he had just made a few tweaks, that overall, this would improve his game. And so we left the basketball game and we went to our local college's track. It's always so much better to run on a track. Have you ever noticed that? It's great. It's a great feeling. And so we take him out there and I'm like, okay, here's a 100-meter yard and here's 200 meters. And so if we go this far, this is what we can achieve. So we start walking and I said, okay, well, show me how you run. He's kind of running. I said, well, why don't you try to go with your heel a little bit more first and try to put your body more upright and keep your arms kind of relaxed, but still at your sides. And now try to run. And he's like, I don't know what I'm doing. This is ridiculous. Why do I need to know how to run? I already know how to run. And we had this battle. He's a preteen, so it really wasn't as smooth as my mind was thinking that it would go. And we started to go around the corner, and I thought, okay, well, let's try running again. Let's do it together. And I had no intentions of running myself, but that's what this led me to. And so I started to run with him, and he was like, I can't see. I said, well, just have to feel it. Sometimes you just have to feel it. You may not be able to see the progress that you're making, but you just have to feel it inside of you. And I said, I'm here and I'm watching you. And so you just have to see what feels differently as I tell you little corrections. And so he did. And he continued. And he still was struggling to see it, but I could see in some moments where it was like his stride was great, his posture was great. You could tell it felt natural. And then he'd kind of slide back into kind of running more on his toes and doing some weird body movements that just weren't quite right. And at the end of the day, I had to tell him, we were driving home, and I said, I know that it was frustrating for you because you think that I'm telling you that you don't know how to run. Well, what I'm telling you is that if you were to just calibrate and recalibrate, just like a mechanic does on an engine, he's not replacing the entire engine. He's tuning it. And when you're tuning your engine, it's going to run smoother. And for him, it's going to improve his overall game. And for us in our businesses, when we fine-tune ourselves and when we fine-tune our businesses, it's going to improve our overall game. It's going to make us that much more successful and that much more ready. What I didn't realize when I first started out, when I leapt from corporate into my business, I thought I was ready. I thought I was mentally prepared. I thought I had everything in place that I needed. And the more that I moved and continued on in my journey, the more I realized that I had more to learn and that I wasn't ready for the level of success that I had in my mind at that time. Sometimes when we're comparing ourselves and we're thinking, this is where I want to be, it might take a little bit longer. The climb might be a little bit steeper. We might have to continue to condition ourselves to become ready. I know I've used the metaphor of climbing Mount Everest before, but it's still one of my favorite ones because you don't just go and climb Mount Everest. You have to train. And then you have to go to base camp. And then you have to get your body ready for the air conditions. There's less oxygen in the air at that altitude. And so that's what you're working toward when you are working toward a greater level of success. But what we don't see is the growth and the progress that we're making continually every single day because it's not hitting the marker in our mind. And so therefore we feel like we are failing rather than preparing ourselves for that next step. Have you ever noticed how with kids, they have to grow, right? They go through these like growth spurts. And so they'll be kind of the same height, right? And then they go through this shoot of growth. And sometimes when that happens, not only do they feel the physical pain, but they become more clumsy, right? And they become more moody. I know my son does. And they're not even sure how to use their body because they're growing at such a rapid pace. Now, while that could be welcomed in some cases, what I want to ask you is, would you rather be ready for the level of success that you truly are shooting for? Or would you rather be thrown in and not have all of it together and potentially risk falling even more flat because you didn't have all of the things that you needed in place? And most often it's us. Most often it's our mindset. Most often there's little calibrations that we have to work on, whether it's our speaking, our communication, our negotiation, our sales skills, all of the things that are required in order for us to be operating at that next peak level. But if we're not taking in all of that into account, all we're doing is comparing our old selves to what we want for our new selves and not looking at anything in between. But there's a gap there, and that gap is your growth. So when I say go out and take tally marks, start writing down all of the things that you have learned thus far. What are all of the changes? What are all of the little things that you have done? What are the little tweaks and the calibrations and the pivots? It's not that you're going out and you're wanting to create create a whole new business or a whole new passion or a whole new conviction. It's refining who you are. It's refining your business, how you serve, so that you can be the best version of yourself that you can be at that moment in time. Where you are right now is where you're supposed to be, because at this moment, this is what you've been able to learn so far. We don't learn a foreign language in a single day just by reading a book or just by listening to some audio. There might be a prodigy out there, but that's not true for, I would say, the majority of us. So why do we think that we're going to be able to do the same thing when we take a leap of faith from one environment into something completely different and expect that everything is just going to start to change overnight for us? It takes discipline. It takes courage. It takes grit, stamina, persistence. It takes waking up in the morning and doing the thing that sometimes you don't feel like doing because you're not seeing what you think you should be seeing. But you know, because you've committed to yourself and you've committed to the people who are relying on you, that you've got to go forth and do that thing anyways. That's success. Success isn't the end. It's the journey along the way. It's how you're continuing to be able to condition yourself to reach the peak. So if you haven't reached the peak yet, then ask yourself, where are you at on the mountain? Are you still at the bottom? My guess is that you're not. My guess is that you have built up a greater level of stamina than you probably realize. Are you honoring your journey? Are you honoring your growth? Are you seeing the diamond that's being formed before your eyes? Because I guarantee you, that's what's happening. Whatever it is that you're going through, whatever challenges that you're facing, whatever level of failure that you think that has occurred for you, or you're not seeing the results of your efforts in the ways that you're thinking that you should, ask yourself to see it through new eyes. Ask yourself to see it through God's eyes. What is it that you're being prepared for? Where is your anointing? And how is that coming forth in your life? And what it is that you're cultivating and that you're creating. Because if it's big, like I'm pretty sure I know it is, then you might have to do a little bit more cultivating in order to have a larger harvest. And ask yourself, are you ready? Are you ready for the harvest? Because when you're tending the fields, when you're taking care and you're nurturing yourself, you're just preparing yourself, your mind, your body, your life. Are you pulling out the weeds that no longer belong there so that you can have a richer harvest? Sometimes that return on our investment also means pruning. We have to prune back. We have to really look deeply at the things that are happening in our lives and decide, am I ready? Or what else am I still needing to do and tend to prepare myself for that level of success that I originally embarked on? It is a journey and it's worth it. And remind yourself of your purpose, your convictions, why you set forth. Those are the things that will get you up in the morning. And those are the things that will keep you on the path. It's not that you made a mistake. It's just that you have to start seeing it through new eyes. And sometimes it's just that small tweak. It's just that small calibration. It's just that gentle pivot to get us right where we need to be. If you've been struggling to know how to elevate yourself, your leadership, your brand, I would love for you to reach out. Let's have a conversation and chat. That's what I'm here to help with. And I want you to understand there are no mistakes. You're not a mistake. The dreams and the purposes and the passions that you have in your life, they're not a mistake. You just simply have to kind of figure out, where is it that you need to be? What's that little tweak? What's that little calibration to get you back to where you can be skyrocketing? So go ahead, reach out. Let me know in the comments, where are you today? Where is it that you feel like you need a little bit of pivoting, a little bit of fine tuning so that you can be rocking it in your business? I'd love to hear. Thanks so much for joining me. Join us next week. We're going to have another fantastic guest. I am so excited. It's going to be phenomenal. Until then, keep showing up bravely in your life. Thank you for tuning in to the Hello You Show. It's been a pleasure to have you with us on this journey today. If you found value in our conversation and want to support the show, please take a moment to like, follow, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'd also deeply appreciate it if you could leave us a review. Your feedback not only helps us grow, but also enables others seeking inspiration and authenticity to discover our community. Until next time, keep embracing your story with purpose.